What is up, everyone? It is your boy Samir Sahai Kausar with his favorite co-host.
Ryan Kruger. Today I'm growing a beard, apparently. I haven't shaved in a few days. Call it the holiday blues. I don't know. We'll see. But today we are going to be discussing a sort of year in recap for the Diary of a Sales Engineer, what we've accomplished on the podcast. Overall, honestly, just a large thank you to the audience for listening and joining us throughout this journey. The previous year we made it through episode 14. This year we recorded 16. This is actually 17 different episodes within the year. So we are continuing to grow, continuing to put out more content. We've had new guests join us this year. We've had even one recurring guest come back on and join us. And, as we look into the year of 2026, like we're going to continue onward and forward. So yeah, it's just been a wonderful journey with all of you, and we're really excited about what we did in 2025. So it's just a little year in recap.
Yeah, I was thinking about some goals for us this year, and I was like, I want us to be able to put out 20 episodes this year. That's the number I'm putting on the board. 20 episodes, and by the end of the year we'll get to episode number 50, and I think we can do it. And if we keep the pace, there's a lot of exciting things going on. I mean, if we're looking back last year, I feel like there's been this talk of like the SC renaissance, so to speak, as we're seeing of, okay, well, AI is coming into play. It's making us more efficient. How are we going to be implementing it into our workflows? How is it going to be affecting us? And we started to see a lot of that this year with, being able to quickly spin up like demo data, leveraging ChatGPT to build out various different scenarios where previously if I needed to go and make some kind of finance use case, I had to go and fumble around, but now I can just ask, hey, I'm about to talk to XYZ persona. Can you give me a use case that is relatable? And I've been able to use that in my demos. What other things have you seen, through this last year that you've, injected AI into your workflow, specifically on the pre-sales motion?
Yeah, I would say this, last year when we did our previous recap, we'd sort of discussed that going into the year of 2025, it'd be the year of the sort of like AI empowered sales engineer, but more from an exploration sort of standpoint for sales engineers, where you're just starting to figure out ways of implementing AI into all the different things that you utilize. And, for me specifically, like being at an AI forward company, it's become ingrained into every single one of the workflows that I have. So I feel very lucky in that regards to, truly be like at the forefront of where AI meets sales engineering at times. And, to your point, like I've used it to build mock data. I've used it to have it review code for me. I've had it do tons of amazing things. And all that being said is it's made me a more effective and a more efficient sales engineer. But I think something maybe something maybe I like knew in my heart, but maybe I understand more deeply now is while these tools make me more effective and efficient than ever before, I think from a sales engineering side, ultimately people are looking for human interaction and imperfection. I think now with all these AI tools, there's almost this expectation that you as a sales engineer need to be perfect. You need to have the answer to everything and you need to respond like an LLM responds. And I find that if you're doing that, honestly, like you're probably not selling and you're probably not doing your job as a sales engineer really well. Like the goal is to utilize these tools to like help people work through that edge case scenario where you find out, okay, this is a deal blocker. How can we work through it? How can we creatively solution around this? Maybe I can use these LLM tools to build some custom script or some custom code that can help, this workflow. And it solves that sort of gap point where we don't need to build a feature request. We can, creatively solution around this. But ultimately, I think you need to show up authentically and still connect with your buyers, because nowadays every email they get is written by AI. Every piece of outreach they get on LinkedIn is AI. Every blog they read online is AI. So when they get on a call with you, like I truly find that the buyers that I've interacted with, they're looking for that human connection from you as a sales engineer to not only help them evaluate a tool, but to be a partner in that process. And I think going into 2025, I would have probably said like I fundamentally people are always going to buy from people, right? Like I'm such a strong believer in that. But I would have thought that AI may would have maybe like impacted that a little bit, or maybe you could sell a little bit more with the help of AI. But I'm actually finding it did the reverse impact of that,
Hmm.
where people are really craving human interaction first and foremost versus the sort of like AI sales pitch where like, I want an AI sales engineer that can build out a demo and do it without Ryan on the call and do all the voiceover for me. Like people don't want to buy that way. I totally stand by that. 2026, people aren't going to buy like that. I don't think 2027. I don't want to speak too far in the future because things can rapidly change and evolve, right? But I think that's something that I understand a little bit differently.
Yeah, I feel like with the AI slop that's out there, the you really stand out more when it's like, oh, this actually sounds like someone wrote it. Oh, they used the wrong there. And no longer are people getting mad about grammar because you messed up. It's like, oh, it's a human writing it. And yeah, more than ever, people buy from people. Even like through this week of reconnecting with customers and prospects after the holidays, I feel like that first 5 to 7 minutes of catching up, like asking how are your holidays? Oh, like you said you were gonna do XYZ with your kids. Like how did that go? And that piece of like rapport building is even more important now, given how much AI slop is out there than ever. But on the flip side, I will say I don't use it necessarily for like custom. I've started to use it where now I leverage my transcripts where I'm explaining stuff, almost the same things over
Mm.
and over again, and I'm chucking that in order to make documentation, just because of the amount of work there is, and then the amount of new capabilities that are coming out in our product. In the last 2 weeks, we just shipped a bunch of stuff, and having that documentation around it is always very helpful. And I'm explaining it on calls all the time. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just take the transcripts, give a little bit of a format, and now I have a structure. Of course, it's not 100% perfect, but it's like 60, 70% on the way there. And just filling that out. And that's been a huge thing for me personally of leveraging in my workflows. It's I'm already doing these on calls. I already am explaining it, and because of that in mind, I'm being a little bit more extra when I explain it, and don't just rely on my mouse moving. I'm like describing where my mouse is going, and that also makes you just a better like orator when you are demoing, and it's a better experience for the end user who is watching it. So it's like a triple win on that front of just using that information. I've done it multiple times. I've gotten really good at that talk track, and now all of a sudden I can document it easily. Oh man, I don't know anyone who loves documentation or making documentation. So that's been a huge for me that I've just started to leverage. And even like I've started to do things where I'll take similar parts of the sales cycle, and when you'll have similar calls across different prospects, right? Because you're in similar stages. It's like, okay, my first demo usually has this rough flow. And I've taken that and used that to just say, hey, what are like some common things that are bubbling up across this? Is there a way that I'm using it to get coaching? So essentially, and that's been really interesting to just have a. It's one thing to watch yourself and try to critique yourself, but then another thing to get a outside opinion, and then you can start like getting interesting with it. Of hey, knowing medpick or name your sales methodology, give me this skew, like was I able to touch on all of these things? And so those are like I think some positive ways to use it, but again, those are not that's not directly going to the customer. It's kind of I'm using it to sharpen my sword, and then I'm taking my sword to battle. I'm not taking the sharp.
Yeah. I think that's like a one super cool call out about like using it to build documentation based on things that you're talking about. Like this is just like such a great use case for it. I'll agree with you. Like from the sales engineering standpoint, one of the biggest things that I find value in is just the call preparation. And especially like on the days where you're back to back or you're like cross doing 5 different types of calls where you have 2 demos, you have like a post sales sort of call, then you have an intro pre sales call, then you have maybe like a trouble, like there's different calls that you can have in a day. I find the call preparation stuff to be like so helpful. Like, hey, I'm heading into this call in 5 minutes. Like, tell me everything I need to know. Tell me the last call we had with them, and like give me a high level update into this business. I feel like that's one way that I love using AI as an SE. something that you've reminded me of, Samir. I have completely and entirely, I have stopped taking notes. I no longer do it. I used to be a pen and paper guy, and then I moved over to OneNote. I've been using OneNote for, I don't know, probably about 5 years now, where like I'll always have it sidecar up with a call, or I'd pen and paper, and then I would insert my notes into OneNote. Granola totally changed the game
If you want
on
to
note
sponsor the pod,
taking.
granola.
Yeah, seriously, yeah, no free ads, but wow, like that thing has totally changed the way that like I'm able to operate and just take really good notes. Would have said there was never going to be a tool as good as me. It is like so much better than me at actually like going through that transcript and like writing notes in a way that feels authentic to me. And now that's not to
Hmm.
say that there can't be mistakes, right? And you want to still have some human in the loop sort of like validation and verification of those notes. Man, like that saves me so much time. And then you can pop those notes in and say, build me documentation based on this. Like, yeah, totally like great ways in which AI, again, I think has impacted sales engineering as a whole to be the AI empowered sales engineer. But you can't forget the interaction piece of it all. I'm finding now more than ever, like out of all the sort of like businesses I sold into throughout the year, like one of the number one things I would cite is just connection to the buyer, just building really strong foundational relationships with people and having them be people that text me, call me, it's just, I think if you're really looking to like up level yourself right now as an SE, the technical skills you can continue to learn, and we're going to continue to evolve on the technical skills, especially with the rise of AI. But if you want to be like great at your job, I think now more than ever, it's to focus on the soft skills. And I think if you have really, really great soft skills, when somebody asks you a technical question you don't know, just, hey, after today's call, I'm going to spend a little bit of time and I'll find you that answer and I'll build you a document and I'll do all the amazing things and I'll actually show you and send you a video afterwards. Like, man, amazing. Like you don't even need to have that skill set on a call. I do find though, one interesting nuance to this, I will point out. AI, I think at times for SEs can be a confusing tool in
Yeah.
the sense where one, you could rely on it too much, but two, because we're already technical stewards of technology, it could force some sales engineers into doing things that are more technical than what is required by a business for the product you sell. Meaning like, hey, let me show you this custom workflow that I could build because I have access to Cursor and I have access to all these different things, right? It's like, wait a second, like we need to focus on the core value prop of the actual product itself. I think sometimes that could get lost in sales engineering because you're like, oh man, I can do anything, right? So a prospect asks you a question, and you're like, could we do it? Honestly, I could probably mock something up, and I could build a workflow, and I could build a diagram, and I could spin up some code and come up with something in a few days time. Sometimes it's better just to say like, nah, man, it's not that's not what we do,
Yeah.
right? And that's okay. And I think again, that's where those soft skills to me like really really come into play is that you now more than ever can just talk to the person that you're selling to and say, look, these tools are amazing. If your team wants to build something like that, I'm happy to explore it. But right now where our product sits today, it's not something that we offer. But if that's something that's going to cause friction in this deal, like please let me know. Like I'm happy to explore that with my team. Most of the time that's probably going to be all right, especially if we understand the why, right? We talk about that a lot, understanding the why, always understanding the why behind things. Most of the time people ask questions, they're just questions. I don't know how many times like we'll have to say that on this podcast before, maybe that's like we need to make t-shirts that say that like always ask the why, right? Or like always figure out why. And I find that that's just so important. And you know, not knowing something or stumbling over your words or telling somebody no, I find like that's the human connection that they're looking for versus the constant yes, 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 yes. These LLMs, they are agreeable by nature, right?
Yep.
There's so many times I have to say in my prompt, like, do not agree with me, like push back on me. I do not want to be told I am correct. And even then I find it's still like, great job, Ryan. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that right now. Like, I just
Yeah.
want the truth. Like,
Give
tell
me,
me the
give me the
truth.
truth. Yeah, I think it is more important now than ever, especially from what you're describing. I mean, we can use LLMs to jerry rig and duct tape a bunch of stuff together to, I'm putting in quotes, show that use case. But it's really up to us to truly understand what the business is doing, what the business's goal is, what is our 1 quarter plan, half year plan, 1 year plan, 5 year plan. Like, if you don't understand that, it is very easy to get sucked in this deal. Oh yeah, I can do that. Tell the AE, oh yeah, I can mock something up real quick. I just write a quick script to do X, Y, Z, and then make a really rough front end, and we can. It's demoable, but that's going to just get you in trouble down the line when they actually sign. Like, oh yeah, Samir showed us a really cool feature. Where is it? And then all of a sudden your CSM is hitting you up and you're like, what did you show them? It's like, oh, I built a
Hey,
front
here's this custom
end.
script. Yeah, like it's just that's where I think you can really get yourself into trouble. I think as an SE, or like one way that you could find yourself into the deep end. And again, like just pushing back and saying no. I think people are looking for that. Honestly, I think they're just looking to find that connection where somebody's going to actually say, you know what, let's look at this differently. Or like I was talking with a colleague recently and they were talking about some use case they heard from somebody. And it was this crazy, like honestly, like at the base of it, when it was being explained to me, I was like, this is a weird use case to even be thinking about. I was like, did you get to the why behind? Like, why? What are they looking to solve? Like, it involves some financial data, and I'm like, I don't know. It sounds like they need like better financial tools than something like this. Like I think that's okay to say. Like, oh yeah, like, I would like to just figure out the why. Um, Again, like I think people now more than ever are looking for that. I think one other thing too, like on the human connection piece, if you have the opportunity and you are a SE, if you're regionalized, even if you're like a global SE or an SE that travels, like I would say get on site with your clients in 2026. People are going back to the office. So like this sort of virtual world, I think is not ending. I think it will always be present in our lives, but I think we're going to start to see more of this like hybrid work environment really take place. And I think people are looking to meet with people face to face. So I found a lot of success this year in just like dinners, happy hours, on-site meetings, trainings, demos. I honestly I like to prioritize finding at least one day a week where I am doing something face to face with either a customer of mine or a prospect of mine. And I think it just up levels the relationship aspect when you get to meet somebody face to face. So if you do have that opportunity, I would do it. And if you're an SE that's fully virtual, and maybe you're like me, like you used to live in I live when I was living out in Colorado, and I would service accounts that were in New York, and I'd service accounts in California and Florida and all these places. But when you go to the business and you say, hey, when we go on site, we're going to have a better shot at closing this deal, the business will typically say, like, get on site. I've not met many sales managers in my life that are going to push back on you and say, like, nah, we don't want you going on site. And especially when you bring in some of those deals, they're going to say, wow, we need you on site more often. Like, can you go, 2 times a month? Can you go 3 times a month? Like, I would definitely encourage all of you to make that a part of your typical day to day process. Partner with your reps and say, let's go. Like, let's get on site. Let's get in front of people.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I know Ryan, you and I have been talking about doing a meetup. You heard it here first on the pod, but yes, this year Ryan and I are planning to do an in person just to encourage us to get together and meet each other in person. Details are very much TBD, but I
Yeah.
think from a location we're leaning towards Chicago. So if you're in the Chicago area, stay tuned because I think 2026 is going to be, to your point, a lot of the customers I service, a lot of them are hybrid, so they have to come to the office 3 times a week. A lot of companies are moving towards that model and going in person and spending time outside of work and learning about the random the random things of a person's life. Like, one customer I worked with, her brother's TikTok famous. And it's like, I would have never known that if we just talked on Zoom all day. And so that that stuff is, it's, you can't buy it. Like, you have to just experience it. And I saw that you and your, actually, I'm curious about this. You and your AE went and delivered stuff, swag. Tell me about that. What inspired you to do that, and like, how was it
Yeah.
received?
Honestly, man, this was a it was just a random thought I had one day. Just it kind of dawned on me that we're like, if you think about your buyers, right? Like, I think maybe a lot of people don't like do this, but I try to put myself in the shoes of my buyers often. And so if I'm thinking about my buyer, and even like on LinkedIn, I get hit up plenty by tons of people, right? Just like sending me messages, sending me like outreach emails and stuff like that, right? It's hard for me to like really catch my eyes. I think I talked about one earlier this year where somebody said like, yes, no, kick rocks, right? And I remember that one caught my eye. But for the most part, if you think about your buyers, like they're getting hit up with the same messaging. Every company in the world is branding themselves as an AI company, AI empowered company. So all the messaging looks the same. And guess what happens? When you're using the LLMs, the message itself, the outreach email, it comes out pretty much the same too. So how do you stand out in a crowded audience, right? Like, sure, my messaging could be the best. All right, maybe. But like open rates and success rates in LinkedIn, I think we're seeing like a steep, rapid decline. I think we're seeing like more conversions over phone calls that are taking
Hmm.
place from cold calling. And so one day I just happened to tell my rep, I'm like, man, what if we just like went? What if we just showed up? What if we just went and did something? And he's like, yeah, man, that sounds like a great idea. So we partnered together and we came up with this idea to go and drop off donuts on site, with a bunch of different clients and then create some content around it. Now, the expectation for me, like, kind of going into it was like, maybe if somebody in the right audience finds this, like, maybe we book a couple meetings, if they see our donuts, right? But I thought the content would really be the sort of like biggest impact that would come out of it. And the content online was really responded to well. And believe it or not, we actually booked a couple of meetings from this. So it was successful for us. It's something that I would say we'll plan on running back again, maybe like have it look a little bit different. But honestly, like I think a lot of good really came out of that. One, it's always good just to show up. When we've talked to those organizations that have come back to us, it's nice to say, we were actually at your office, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then they know like this person is willing to show up for me if I ask them to come out here, right? Like, hey, we want you to come out here and in person. So they know that you're willing to do that. You're willing to go the extra mile. The second piece was just being able to hang out with my AE all day long, man. Like, shout out to you, Nico. Like, we had a blast, right? Like, we're in the car all day long and we're dropping off these donuts, but we're getting to know each other on such a deeper level that when we're operating and interacting in our calls, like, it just allows us to be on this wavelength that um, I know what he's thinking before he's thinking it, right? And he knows vice versa. Even the subtle body language is from me of like my face twitches a little bit and he goes, I can tell Ryan wants to say something here, and in the same way it applies too. So I think that relationship building goes a really long way too, because when we talk about the human connection for selling into businesses, they're looking for that on your account team too. Like, and so when you show up and they're like, man, these two people, they work so well. They know when the other person's talking. There's never ums and ahs and stepping over one person or the other. They're just on this wavelength where they know what the other person's doing. I think that creates this sort of buying environment that becomes such a positive one. And it's a way to stand out amongst a crowded field. A lot of you that listen to this podcast, my assumption is that you sell products that are commoditized in certain ways. Like I came from the AP automation world. That product was not commoditized. It was crazy commoditized. I would be at marketing events and it would be AP reimagined, AP re-envisioned, AP in the
Like,
future, whatever you want to call it. Like it was all the same. And most people would come up to me at those events and they say, what's the difference between you? I've already heard 4 pitches today. And that's it's hard to differentiate yourself. So one way that you can do that is by being the absolute best account team that they interact with. And if you do that, like that stands out more than the product will. And they're going to think about the products they look at and they're going to think about you and your account partner. And they're going to say, oh man, like their product, it stands out to me because of the people that are selling it to me. You can do that, but it starts off with just this killer relationship with the people that you work with and that you interact with, and you create this kind of environment. I would really encourage all of you. I've said it throughout probably the dawn of this podcast. Like, get with your rep in
Yeah,
person, meet them, get to know them, know their body language, know what makes them angry, know what makes them sad, know when they're happy, know when they're sad, you know when they're worried. Like, you got to be there. You guys can be there for each other, and I think if you do that, it's a way to differentiate. It's a way to make yourself better, and it's a way to stand out in a very crowded place. There's so much marketing right now that all sounds the same. Like, you can be the difference. Like, truly, you, the sellers, can be the difference in the deal. And nothing better. There's nothing better to me, Samir. Nothing better than when you win a deal and they say, you know what was the big difference for us? The accounting.
yeah,
That's the
that's,
home run for me.
that's huge. That's like a lot of the reasons why I've won deals, especially because like products are relatively the same at previous companies. Like to your point, it's like AP this, AP that. It's something like, yeah, there's a slight edge here and there, but I feel like that engineering edge is like withering away more and more because as soon as you put something out, your competitor will put it out really fast, right behind it. And so, like the people buy from people is never going to go away, and people remember the way you make them feel, and then they will associate that with your product, like subconsciously. So if you are like jovial, having a good time, cracking some jokes, giving them value, teaching them something new, they are going to probably feel good after that call and then start to be like, oh, I'm looking at product A and product B. And I remember product A, like Ryan was smiling, having a good time. Product B, they were kind of just like monotoned and a little bit down. I don't really remember what the products. I remember they both could do what I needed to do. I'm going to choose Ryan because I think if him and Nico are having such a good time, like the rest of the team that we'll be working with is probably going to also have a good time. Sometimes I think to myself, there's that interview trope where it's like, oh, could I imagine myself getting a beer with this person or like a coffee with this person? Especially when you're interviewing for a new company, I was always told, hey, come off of that interview where the person who's interviewing you feels that they could go and grab coffee, do something outside of work. Like you want that same feeling to your buyers. Because if your buyer feels like they can go and like hang out with you outside of work hours and it could be interesting, that's only going to help you stand out to Ryan's point. It's only going to make it easier for you to close. Products product differentiation is just becoming smaller and smaller. And I think that's going to continue to happen in 2026. A lot of the not all products, but a lot of the SaaS tools out there are going to have razor thin differentiations from a purely engineering product perspective.
I think you hit on like probably the most important thing we've said so far, which is this idea of like, can you imagine yourself outside of work with somebody else? Like, I really think, heading into the year for everybody listening, like, hold on to that thought. And I'm going to challenge the audience here. Take that one step further. Can you and your prospect or your customer, can you interact outside of the work environment in a way that makes them want to pull out their phone and show you a picture of something that they've done with their family or their friends?
That's a good one. Yeah.
If you do that, my guess is like you're going to be in a really good position to sell a lot of software because that means they trust you. It means they're excited to talk to you. It means they're excited to share their life with you. Hey, look, guess what? Me and my family went to Disneyland. Check out these pictures. You know what? Me and my family were at the Cubs game last week. Check this out. You, I mean, come on. Like, if you do that this year, I have a hard time believing that at the end of the year, you won't be one of the top sellers at your company. So I'm going to challenge, like, that is going to be a challenge that I'm going to put out there. Not only imagine yourself outside of work, because I think that's critical. That trope that, Samir brought up, so important. Can you be somebody that they want to hang out with outside of work? And can it be like not forced, right? Where you're like, I don't know what to say. You don't know what to say. Can it be so natural that when you're talking and conversing, they want to show you something, a part of their life. I think if you do that, I think you'll be in a really good spot. So that's a challenge to the audience.
I like that. I like that challenge. That's very tangible. Of can you make a deep enough a relationship where they're like, oh, let me show you this off of their phone. All right, I'll take that one. I'll let you
Okay,
know.
yeah.
I'll let you know next time I'm in person with some prospects or with just some people or customers. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
All right, yeah. Yeah. Let's hold true on that. I want updates from you on the next time that happens for you. I think the one that you mentioned though about like getting your client to tell you that like their family was TikTok famous, like that to me falls into
Fits
that
in that
category,
bucket.
in that bucket of like they're sharing a part of their life with you. Like, hey, you should go check out my family member on here. Like that feels to be like they're pulling out their phone and they're showing you the TikTok. Maybe you guys are on a call, so like they're not physically doing it and they're telling you to look them up or sending you a link. But that to me like falls into that bucket. But I think that's, I think that's really cool. And look, Samir, I think something that I feel really good about on what we have done over 30 some episodes now. Our goal when we set out to do this, I can remember sitting down in that WeWork office with you. You said, the one thing I really just want to do is I just want my mom to know like what a sales engineer is at the dinner table. I feel like we're making headway on this. Like I
Mm-hmm.
find that I'm having more people than ever reach out to me on LinkedIn saying, I'm looking to break in. Your podcast is helping. Like, trust me when I say those messages go such a long way for Samir and I to continue onward here. And I encourage you all to do that. We appreciate every single listener. I try to respond to every last one of those messages. And if you have reached out to me, I can almost guarantee that you've got a response back because I truly appreciate it. We are out here trying to help spread the word of sales engineering, but we're also trying to help other people break into the role for the very first time, take the next step in their career, or just learn something new. Like that's all we want to do. And I feel like, 2024 was like our foyer or entry into like, starting this. And then 2025, I really feel like we've started to build some really good momentum on that.
Yeah, and 26 is going to be us just continuing on that momentum, bringing in other folks in the industry who have been around longer than us. I mean, selfishly, we kind of bring in people we want to talk to, and it's like, oh, we would text each other like, oh, this would be a cool person to have. Look what they've accomplished. I'm curious to ask these questions, and then we just hit them up, like, hey, are you interested in coming on? And I think we have like a pretty decent success rate. I think I've gotten rejected a couple times, but you know, to each their own.
Hey,
You gotta shoot your shot. But most of people, most everyone has said yes. Uh,
yeah.
there was one person
And
who was
we
like, "We charge a fee," and I was like, "Okay, we don't have any
and
money."
look, like we appreciate all the guests that have come on too, to everybody that has joined us to spend an hour talking about sales engineering and sharing their thoughts with our audience and having you all, connect with them too, I think has been a really amazing journey for us. And like you said, most of the time we reach out, like people are receptive to coming on and sharing those thoughts because of the amazing audience that we have. You know what I want, Samir? Like, we briefly discussed before the podcast today. One of the things we wanted to talk about was forward deploy engineering.
Yeah,
But honestly, like now that we've been chatting about like some of the guests, that's what we have to get on. Like we need to have a forward deploy engineer come on and speak about the role and
yeah.
everything that they
I
do.
have so many
Like
questions.
I want a podcast designated to that because you and I just aren't the best people to discuss this. And it has been one of the hottest jobs in technology this year. I think sales engineering has like a great pathway into forward deploy engineering. I think it can be a great like pathway either into forward deploy engineering or becoming a forward deploy engineer and then moving into sales engineering. I think there's sort of like a vice versa track or that, somebody could go on there. But this is a PSA to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
If you know a forward deploy engineer that you think would be a really good fit for this podcast, like reach out to us. I want to have somebody on. I want to have that discussion and I want to dive into this and I want to see where all those crossovers exist.
Yeah, that is a big. big question of what is this new role? How does it work? Where does it sit? It seems similar to sales engineering, a little bit more technical. Yeah. PSA to the audience. What is it? Does it say like TikTok do your thing?
Yeah, TikTok or yeah, YouTube, do your thing. Spotify, do your thing. Find us the right person that should come on and talk about this. And if there's other topics that you want to explore, like we are here to explore those topics too. I can't remember what it was. A few episodes ago, we did that where it was straight from the audience and into podcast form. So we're here to take those things that you have questions about and create content around it. We have goals for ourselves this year, not only in the amount of content that we push out, but also growing our website presence, growing our on-site presence, right? With a fun activity that we're thinking about. Again, not a lot of details yet. It is very likely to be somewhere in downtown Chicago. So if you're interested and you're listening today, like also send me a message and say, hey, when you follow through with this event, like please let me know. We're happy to keep you included there. But our goal is to get more sales engineers together in person and to continue to explore the topics that we want to discuss. We had on some important ones this year, around compensation. It's never an easy one. It's a fun topic to explore, but not necessarily an easy one for most people. But
It's very opaque.
like
Uh, I what else did we talk about? Were highlights of this year? I think the having our return guest come on and talk about his latest book, which was awesome. I liked some of the things that me and you just did, like the one we just put out, the marketing one. That one was how to crush your next marketing event. The most recent one, uh, those were some good nuggets. And again, those in person events. I think 2026 is going to be where going in person and making that connection, and then using that connection throughout the sales process, especially like in the marketing event perspective. Usually, those are going to be very brand new leads, unless you have one that's already been cooking and you're meeting them. But leveraging that is going to set you apart. But for in the wrap up here, Ryan, what I know last year we didn't do any predictions. I want to do some predictions this year of we'll say neither of us prepped anything, so this is just off the
okay, yeah, all right, off the
off
dome,
the
off the
dome,
dome.
off the dome prediction of 2026. Just like the we'll say like let's say like the SaaS space.
Ooh, all right. Um, I felt this way for a long time. I'm still gonna utilize this one because I feel like either it's gonna be this year or the next year. Like there is going to continue to be this sort of hybrid sales to sales engineering role that gets emerged within the space, with companies wanting to do less with more. I think there'll be more of an onus where you're gonna look at some kind of either AI generated lead tool or SDRs generating leads that then get passed on to this sort of like overarching sales expert that not only opens, discovers, and closes business, and then passes off to like a forward deploy engineer or technical CSM or a TAM. Like, I think there's something that will happen there. I'm not sure if it's this year, um, but I think maybe that will be one prediction I have. Um, I think second prediction Second prediction I have. I'll let you go first. I'm going to noodle on one here.
Yeah, I think the one of mine in like the SE space is we're gonna start to have more responsibility. It's going to become more broad of what we would touch in different businesses. Like some SEs are going to be closing and also deploying and like getting people live, and that's not going to be a constraint reason. It's more of like the technology just needs that type of insights. It's either that or we're gonna better figure out how to do this like technical handoff. As like I think as like SaaS in general, that's a place that is very lacking right now. Is this handoff from the pre-sales process to the post-sales process, and then that continue touch point with the customer, because the customer usually stays like from the person who you're interacting with many times. They usually stay the same from pre-sales to onboarding to go live to like ongoing like CSM unless they leave the company. But they're there the whole cycle. And so I think this year we'll be able to leverage AI to help make that transition less bumpy. And I think SEs will have a big role in smoothing that out and ensuring that the information that is needed for the post sales CSM teams is in a manner that is digestible and then actually like leveraged.
I think a prediction I have is that more SCs are going to get looped into some kind of like product marketing. I think that will be like across the industry. I think you're going to see at least one SE kind of emerge at each company to maybe start doing like technical blog writing, technical sort of documentation for prospects. I think that's probably, yeah, I'm going to go with that. That'll be a prediction for me that we're going to see more SEs do more marketing stuff.
That one. Uh, I also think this year it's going to be like events are back. Like they were pretty big in 2025. I think they're going to continue to have a lot of attendance. A lot of companies are going to invest more marketing dollars into going to these large scale events. And they are going to, I think they are going to what causes a deal to win is those in person relationships you build at these large events. Or even like I remember pre-COVID, we would do like roundtables, like customer or prospect roundtables, where it would be dinner with like 10 different customers slash prospects hosted by our company. And that was a way for everyone to get together and like talk shop as well as like have a meal together. I think those are going to start coming back. Actually, that's going to be my prediction. We're going to start seeing like those like pre-sales sales
Roundtables, yeah.
roundtables coming back.
Okay. All right. Pre-sales roundtables. I like it. Do you have any more? Because I think I have one to like finish off the podcast for today.
All right, you
I'm
wrap this
almost
up. You
certain you're
wrap
going
it
to
up.
like it here. My prediction for 2026, and I hope this comes true. And if not, Diary of a Sales Engineer, we are going to be stewards for this. It is the year that SEs get as many spiffs as AEs. I'm here to advocate for
Yes.
that. It is the time to, if you offer one for your AEs, you should always offer one for your SEs. Every single company in the world should be doing that.
Yep. Spiff your SE.
Spiff your SE. Like we are, I feel like that is now like a part of our Diary of a Sales Engineer motto. I want to continue to see more and more organizations continue to spiff their SEs appropriately. And I think we can impact some change here.
I think we can push that. Well, so every episode you're going to hear us probably say, "Oh, and don't forget, spiff your SEs."
We got to make some merch, you know, like we got to make some merch.
That would be cool merch, actually.
Yeah.
Spiff your SE merch coming soon. Put it in the comments.
I have some ideas. Yeah, actually, yeah. Draft one up on Banana Pro and draft one up on Nano Banana. Send it to us. If we like it, we'll get you a free T-shirt. If we end up making it, free T-shirt at your door.
Perfect. Well, with that, it was a great 2025. I'm stoked for 2026. Our goals here that I've set for us, we got 20 episodes we need to do this year. We're starting strong, episode 31. And we're going to be doing an in-person event. I think those are two good ones. Do you want to add one? Do you got any goals for us before we wrap?
Goals for us, we got to get in person in Chicago. We're going to have an in-person get together sometime maybe May, June. I'm thinking like we'll do something in Chicago. More details to come. I have ideas and thoughts on it. I don't want to like say something and have it be something totally different though.
Yeah, but it's coming. But with that, we'll see you all next time. Peace.
See you, everyone.